Hey, Shalom, Kahala, Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, Bashim Chakudash, the ones that apostles of great millstone that rule well, and Shalom to brothers in the highways and byways, doing the work sincerely and faithfully, continually fighting the good fight of faith. Lord, when we find that number to be delivered. All right. So I'm just going to title this, quick reads. All right. So I typed in, is the US dollar the only currency in the world that mentions God? All right. So come to find out, no. The answer is no to that. There's a few other countries that have the word God or higher power or something to that effect. All right. But let's continue on. There's a couple questions that were asked. Like this one here, it says, should the U.S. remove "In God We Trust" from its currency? All right. And one person responded, yes, it was added when it should have not been. It is not part of the foundation of the U.S. in any way. So many uneducated people fail to realize how much later the U.S. history it had added. How much later in U.S. history it was added. It was added and adopted in 1956. Okay? But little do people understand and know that this whole currency is about to shift. All right? There's going to be no need to have, any tangible currency with letters and words and pictures and images on it, man. There's not going to be any, superscription, if you will, or images on the method of currency to come. All right. So will this be removed? Absolutely, it will be removed, but not in a way which you people may be thinking. All right. It's about the transition into digital currency. Y'all know what that means from there. All right. So I'm not going to read the rest of that, but I'm going to keep on scrolling. Okay. Another question was, why does the US dollar have "In God We Trust"? Where did that saying come from? Now, this explanation goes a little into it, but ultimately, when Esau came to the table, they used and put that word "In God We Trust" in there solely because they wanted to try to disconnect themselves from the heathenistic, way of living and the way of life. All right. So by putting "In God We Trust," it made it seem as if this nation was a God-fearing nation. All right. So I'll read what is written here. The answer was, the founding fathers wanted nothing to do with religion, as many had escaped Europe because of religious persecution from other religions. Some religious nuts forced that model through in 1956 with the help of Eisenhower. Okay, so some are now trying to get it removed, but in a country ruled by religious nuts, that will be difficult. All right, so they kind of went into it a little bit. Eisenhower was the main, factor of getting this established on, the U.S. currency. And once again, it was added in 1956, so it's not that long ago where Esau decided to be, or try to be, a God-fearing people, which they're not. All right. Continuing down. Now, this was a good question right here. It says, if the USA has no established religion, then why does its currency say "In God We Trust"? Okay. And this is a damn good question. All right. So at this point, and hence this is the reason why it's known as Babylon. This is the reason why it's known this way, because it's nothing but confusion. Here you have all so-called walks of life, using, spending, saving, doing every which way and every which thing with this so-called dollar or currency. But a lot of them, a good percentage of them, don't even believe in, a higher power, if you will. All right. But they're quick to use that money. There should have been some type of rule or law put in place where it was said or established that if you didn't believe in God, then you can't use this currency. Right? Makes sense. But as we know it today, this place is full of nothing but confusion, man. Any and everybody. And this is not a God-fearing nation. By no means is it a God-fearing nation. All right? So, it says in the answer, because our country was hijacked by hypocritical Christians who try and change it to view who try and changed it to views and beliefs, to their views and beliefs, Slakia. All right? Which, when we hear these Christians on the highways and byways, and whenever they pop up making videos, they clearly have no clue about the word of the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. All right? Who is our power. The God that, Esau trusts in Satan, and he puts himself as God. So ultimately, he's worshiping himself, by putting himself on the dollar bill and on the coins and currency. He's worshiping himself. All right? So that was a damn good question. There's no established religion here in this nation, but the money is going to say, in God we trust. And any and everybody can use it. Any and everybody can use it without no questions asked. Continuing on. Why is the US dollar the world's reserve currency? What properties distinguish it as a reserve currency in an international trade? What does the dollar parentheses or the United States economy, is no way to scroll down, so I really can't get into this one too tough. But it is the world's reserve currency, and this is why the whole world is going to be pissed at this place, because once this dollar crashes, once this U.S. stock market goes down the tubes, down the drain, it's going to affect every country on the planet. All right? And this is why they're having these big meetings right now. The Bilderberg meetings and the G20s and the G7s and the summits and this, that, and the third. Because they are now all aware, very aware, that this economy is going to crash. And once this economy crashes, every other economy is going to follow suit and crash right along with it. But these nations are prepared. They're ready for the fall. They're ready for the crash, because now they're going to usher in that digital currency, if you will. All right. So it's no big thing to those who are in the know as far as these elites are concerned. It's just a matter of time. But to the average person, the average, so-called American or human being that just uses, the currency that's provided for them, they're going to have no idea. They're going to have no clue. They're going to have absolutely zero understanding as to why it's going this way, why this is happening. All right. But we of the hopeful elect, we know and understand that this is prophecy, man. This is prophecy being fulfilled concerning the book of Revelation, the 13th chapter. All right. So when it happens, we're going to be like, hey, it's just another day. We're going to be excited because there's going to be a lot of turmoil that's going to come upon this place and throughout the world. Okay. So let's continue on. See what else we got. Another question was, why does the U.S. currency say, in God we trust? All right. And once again, they're not talking about, and I'm going to use the word God, just for the understanding of this lesson. When they say in God we trust, they're not talking about Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. They're not talking about the creator of the heaven and earth. All right? Because if they did, they would have never stolen and concealed and destroyed the Lord's people if they truly believed in God we trust. All right? And this is how you know they're not talking about the power of the heaven and earth. They're talking about themselves. In themselves they trust. Okay? They trust in themselves. And the response was, during the Cold War, the U.S. Congress voted to add this to the currency as a response to godlessness. Let me read that again. As a response to godless, committed commies. It's also the reason the Pledge of Allegiance was changed to include under God. You see? But once again, it was a maneuver to persuade the people into believing that they truly believed in the higher power. All right? Just like when it speaks of, the sun. The average person will truly believe that it's talking about whom the world only calls Jesus Christ. But they worship the sun itself, man. In the winter solstice, the summer solstice. This is the sun that they're talking about. And the blind people hear that word sun, and they truly believe it's talking about the Son of the Most High, and it's not. Okay. And this is the trickery and the sorcery that this devil has been able to establish on this earth. Play on words, semantics. All right. These are the things that they have done, and the people just clearly have no clue, and they have zero desire to research it, to figure it out, to try to figure it out. If the elites say that's what it is, and by damn, that's what it is for them. Okay? Let's keep it moving. That's nothing there. This question says, if the dollar is not that strong, why is it still being used to compare other countries, or other currencies? Slagia. I mean, once again, the dollar isn't strong. It's not. But this thing has to play out. They got to keep this dollar in place for a reason. All right? Because as the world's reserve currency, this dollar, it still holds some type of moral value to the people of the world. All right? And it being the reserve currency, it's backed by all these other countries. And all these other countries have come to the conclusion in the agreement that yes, it will be our world currency, reserve currency, and yes, we do accept that. Okay? And the response real quick was, why do you say the dollar is not that strong? If you look at the real effect exchange rate, the inflation adjusted value of the dollar versus the US major trading partners, you'll see that it's almost 15% above 15% above the 10-year moving average. This is about as strong as it gets. All right. And again, you're going to have smoke and mirrors. You're going to have these analysts, pushing that the dollar's doing great, the dollar's picked up, and it is just a guise to appease the so-called American people or the people of the world, so they don't pull themselves out of this reserve currency. You got to keep that picture painted, man. You got to keep it painted. You got to make sure it got a fresh coat of paint on it, and therefore it just keeps looking lively, and it just keeps looking like as if there's no tarnish on it. And that's that that's the reserve currency. That's that American dollar. They'll go around to every nation saying, look, we're doing great. The dollar bill is still strong, and it's doing marvelous. Because these other nations, man, they can pull out. They can pull out and say, listen, we want nothing to do with that dollar. Okay? And basically, you just ask Saddam Hussein, Omar Gaddafi. They wanted nothing to do with the dollar. And what happened to them? So the dollar needs to be in place. The American dollar needs to be in place because prophecy needs to be fulfilled as well. All right? And when and only when this dollar fails, they're going to usher in that new method of currency payment electronically, MOTB style. Okay? They're going to usher that right in, but they got to get rid of the old before they can bring in the new. We see it happening, man. We of the hopeful elect, we see this unfolding and happening right before our very eyes. And it's beautiful. You try to tell somebody else outside of this circle of ours, they're going to look at you like you're crazy. And they have, and they continue to do so. Even those who watch us and have been watching us for years, for year in and year out, they've been watching. They still think we're crazy. Even though the signs of, the proof is much more in the pudding than one can explain. But they still don't believe. And that's okay. As the scripture says, what if some did not believe? Okay? This question was, why is the dollar still the only secure currency for the world? Will that change? And as we just said and we've been mentioning, it has to remain the secure currency. It has to. Okay? As weak as we understand the dollar to be, with inflation, with the lack of, use for this dollar, this thing needs to continue to be in place for a reason, man. Now, if this wasn't concerning the prophecies, I'm sure they would have gotten rid of this damn thing a long time ago. But everything is set for an appointed time. So this dollar is going to remain in place until Yahweh Shai Shai says otherwise. I mean, you can't buy shit with it, And we speaking about the inflation, hyperinflation. The more the goods and services rise, the less value the dollar's gonna have. You ain't gonna be able to buy as much with the dollar as you would in times past. Okay? And once again, we're just hitting some quick reads. Let me read the explanation here. It says, why is it you think that the dollar is a secure currency? It is the largest reserve currency, but other currencies are now challenging that monopoly. In large part because the U.S. has used its dominant position to bully others. Between the dollar and the swift financial networks the U.S. controls, we can sanction and stop others from doing things we don't like, which is true. And this is, once again, this ain't coincidence. All right? This thing is going to remain in place regardless of who says what and how many people, despise it. It's going to stay in place until the Lord moves it out the way. It says there is enough resistance today that Europe, Russia, the Middle East, China are working toward alternates in currency and financial networks. If they succeed, the dollar dominance will fade, not disappear, but fade. All right, and these nations have been speaking about leaving the world reserve currency, leaving or not using the United States currency whatsoever. All right. But all that being said, they're still on the same page. They're still sitting at the round table, so to say, speaking about the same thing. I did a lesson a few months back, about a month or so back, concerning the world's governors or governments, the world governments, in the changing of the currency. Every nation was at that conference, man. Every nation was at that conference, and one of the head speakers, I can't remember this demon's name, but some female who's been juiced in since she was a little girl. Her father and her family, worked in many administrations during the gold standard, this, that, and the third. All right, and she said with conviction that this way of currency that we know is out of here. And when she said that to all the elites and governments of the world. So therefore, it doesn't matter if Russia, Europe, Middle East, China, it doesn't matter if they decide they're going to leave, because the scriptures take precedence, man. And the scripture says he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond. It doesn't say he causes just Babylon. Everybody else is going to be excluded. All right. And again, you people lack understanding that they all are at that round table. They're all a part of that crafty council. Just because they're in Russia or they're in Europe somewhere or in the Middle East or in China, that doesn't mean they're not a part of this thing. All these nations play a major role in the changing of the currency. All these nations play a role because they're all going to have to change with it, right? It says, if you're an American, does it bother you that we have "In God We Trust" on our currency? Now, once again, the masses of the world truly believe that they're talking about the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, who created heaven and earth. They truly believe that that's who they're talking about. All right. And those who know or that are in the know, they know it has nothing to do with the Heavenly Father and His Son, because the elites of the world know that the Heavenly Father and His Son is not for their part. So why would they put their trust in Him? And the response was, all the things to be bothered about, this has to be one of the lowest of the low. If someone has the luxury to be serious, to be seriously bothered about the model on our currency instead of the waves of fortune, personally buffeting them, then they are truly blessed. I've got others serious and potentially life-changing concerns, so no, the model on our currency isn't one of them. Once again, being in Babylon, you have all types of just mad confusion. People are just concerning themselves with just the the worst of the worst or the most nonsense, whatever the case may be. All voices can be heard here in Babylon. All right. Is it true that soon the US dollar will no longer be the world's currency? This is true. This is true. And once again, based off the scriptures, all right, based off prophecy, America only has but a short time. All right. Even when this place gets destroyed, all right, there's still gonna be you Edomites on the other side of the world. All right, so America and the reserve currency, this shit's gonna be out of here. But by that time comes, the chip will already been in place. Okay? And the response was, this may come as a huge surprise to some people, but the US dollar is not a global currency. The Brits still have the pound, Japan the yen, Europe the euro, and on and on and on. It says, the US dollar is the globe's reserve currency, which simply means that a lot of commerce is priced in dollars, but paid in convenient currency, simply because its values tend to be pretty stable. At that rate, we're going with the U.S. debt, and it says that stability is coming more and more of a serious question. It always has been a serious question. The stability of this place, the currency. All right, America's going to be destroyed. Continuing on real quick, it says the debt continues to grow. It won't surprise me if other currencies become more popular. Eventually, many years from what just happened? Eventually, many years from now, your larger concern for now should be how to reduce the debt. Come on, man. There's no reducing the debt. And this is, once again, this is a reason. This is one of the reasons they're going to usher in that new world order, so to say, that MOTB. All right, all these things are being put in place for a reason. This whole debt thing wasn't no surprise. This was strategically set up, man. And then when Biden got into office, with all that stimulus money and relief money and this, that, and the third, trillions upon trillions of dollars have been added to the debt. All right. And now with the war over in Ukraine and the amount of money that the U.S. has now been given to them, this place is finished. But once again, they're finishing it. These so-called elites and the low-level elites, they're sticking the fork in this place. And this is exactly what they want. Because why? Because once again, the prophecy needs to be fulfilled. You read about all these food processing plants burning down. Is that a coincidence? Is that just some mystery? No. They're starting to put the chokehold on you people. All right? You're reading about the food shortages. You're reading about the baby food shortages. You're reading about animal food shortage. All right? America is coming to the brink of destruction. All right? And these men and women who are put in place, they're doing exactly what they need to do to bring it to that brink. Okay? So, moving on. All right, so the questions are pretty much getting redundant now. Let me read this last one. It says, if the US dollar ceases to be the world's reserve currency, which currency has the best chance to replace Uncle Sam? All right. And, it's the same question. It's the same answer, the same response. When the dollar goes, there's nothing that's going to actually replace the dollar. There's no paper fiat money that's going to replace the dollar. All right. It's all going to be digitally electronic. That's what's going to happen. All right. And we don't know right now if Esau's going to give it a special name or a special title, but we know for certain that this shit you're not going to be walking around anymore with folded bills with all kinds of pictures and faces on it. those days are coming to an end. You ain't gonna see no eagle on the back of a dollar bill or pyramid and an eyeball and letters and symbols. You ain't gonna see that shit no more, man. And even if you have that currency, you're not gonna be able to use it. You're not gonna be able to use that anymore. You might as well use that for a campfire. Alright, so I'm gonna end it there. And like I said, it was just a quick review of, some quick reads. And the little willing, brothers had a little edification out of this concerning the currency in the state of what we know as America. Okay? It's coming to its end. Its financial structure is crumbling. Its infrastructure is crumbling. All right? And the powers that be are going to start trembling because the God whom they so-called mention is the God that's going to destroy their way of life. So with that, I'm going to say shalom. I'll see you brothers in another show.